at me for dating outside my race, but I was dating outside of my race because they was doing things better than my race. I'm gonna keep it 100.
Define better.
Well, not better, because I know where she getting ready to go. Not better.
I know you said they were doing things better. I want to know what better meant.
Not better. I'm gonna change that.
I'm trying to save you for the
I know you
people,
is.
for the culture.
Not better for the culture.
There we go.
Right, not better. I was dating Puerto Rican, I was dating Dominican, I was dating African, I was dating all type of other really size American black, right? They were doing way more of what we expect we want our woman to do more than our American. Our American got real comfortable with.
Give me some examples.
Oh man, I mean, their mannerisms are different. Like even my Indian one, was from, Syria, one of them countries over there, right? I didn't have to really say much to do and be treated like a king. You see what I'm saying? A lot of times with our own American black, they expect so much of us and what we're supposed to do. Like things like, if we go out and eat and we just have a nice dinner, we can go anywhere and eat and get a nice dinner. It had to be Roux Chris, or it had to be this, that, or it had to be this, that. Then I get somebody that's just as fine, a Cuban or a Colombian. They don't care about nothing. They care about you and your household. Even though they still care about the money, but it's not about the money. You understand what I'm trying to say? It's a difference. Not better, but sometimes we get tired of hearing, Birkin bags, Zushi.
Do you think that's fair? Because I feel like there's a certain type of woman that does demand that.
Right.
And to me, I think it depends on the bait you're using and where you're looking. If you're going to go get a model from Instagram that got the BBL, the snatched in stomach, and has all the things that check off money hungry and surface, you're going to get that. If you're going to meet a girl and through different ways and ask different questions, you're going to find that out a lot earlier on, that what's important to her.
I'm not doubting that, but I'm just talking about, even if you look on just a regular dating app and just look at what a woman may state that she requires, you know, I'm saying these things because it feels as if social media, again, is the barometer, okay? And it's the comparison. And when you're comparing yourself to all these other women, and of course, even with the BBLs, because I'm like, that's fine, but I mean...
What's BBL? I'm sorry.
Brazilian butt lift.
Oh, okay.
And there's no shade to women that have them. I'm just saying.
I was wondering, I was waiting for it too. I'm like, excuse me?
And there's no shade to everyone that has them. I'm just saying, if you're going by just surface things and that's who you're going afterwards, then guess what? She gonna run them podcasts.
Welcome back to the channel. You see the information on the screen. You know I'm all about marriage. Hey, if you've come here, you want to get married, this is your place, right? You know, I don't consider myself a dating coach. I don't even really consider myself a married coach, but I do consider myself a getting you married coach. So if that is what your concern is and you love Jesus, then you have found your place. But even if you don't love Jesus, you can still come and hang out with me, because some of this information will still help you get to where you're trying to go. So now let's get into this. So this is Jamal Woodard. All right. So I'm not as familiar with him, but he basically did play as Notorious, okay, in that particular movie. So, you know, for those that aren't as familiar with him, because I don't know how many other roles he has outside of that, that's just trying to let you know, again, who he is, you know, and why they would be talking to him. Now, the main point of this is we're always going to be dealing with this black and white issue. And I've been talking about it a little bit off and on for about over a year. And the first thing I'll say before I even get started is I truly believe that there are really great black women in the world. And I truly believe that there are really great black men in the world. And when I'm saying black here, I'm talking about generational American black. So you go back at least 7 or 8 generations in this country. All right. So those are the people that I am talking about and discussing. Now, when it comes to, you know, like I say, all of these different people, I think one of the biggest problems is we're living in an environment that is such a mixed bag of what people want. Okay, so I think that's like one of the first things that we have to really unpack. For instance, I do believe that there are a lot of black women that want to treat their black man as a king. Okay, I do. I really do believe that. But the problem is, I think a lot of black women are in this place where they don't really know where they fit because of the societal pressure and honestly just about them living and going through their own life. For example, I was talking to a lady literally just like 2 days ago, and she was talking about how she was independent. She actually used that word, independent. And I knew this woman, me and her have been friends for at least 4 or 5 years. And as you know, she's going through this and talking to me about this, I told her, I said straight up, I was like, you're not independent, girl. I was like, you're an adult, you pay your bills, but you're not independent. I was like, since I've known you, you've been all about relationships. Since I've known you, you have tried to, go out here and find your husband. Since I have known you, you have no problem with submitting to a man as long as that man is doing what he needs to do. I was like, when people use the word independent in the world, they're really talking more about a woman who doesn't want those things, who wants to be the master of her own destiny. All right. And she never wants to be submitted to a man. She really doesn't care if the man really does much with her beyond a baseline relationship. And what I mean by this is a relationship where she's, making her own money, doing her own thing. And they just kind of come together, maybe have sex, watch a few movies. And then she does her own things with her girls on the weekends. And he does his own thing with his boys on the weekend. That's how I would see more of a woman who's walking in independence. But I was like, this particular lady, she's not like that. Right. And see, that is one of the problems. People are picking up labels that don't even apply to them. And then they don't even know. I ran into another woman who said, I've actually run into several women that have talked about they want to be a stay-at-home mom. But then when you talk to them, they still are talking about businesses that they want to own and all this other stuff that they want to do. And while I think both can go together, but it's like being a stay-at-home mom takes so much time and effort. It really is a 12 to 13 hour a day job. Okay, because it's not just about getting the kids off to school. It's about doing homework, with them when they come home and, cooking meals and different things like that. And more than likely, your husband's also going to want you to spend at least an hour in the gym. So you have all those things going on, just to be, a stay-at-home mom. So I think a lot of, Black women especially, they don't really know where they fit. And then they don't want to stand on it because they're very concerned, honestly, about what other Black women have to say. Like, I've run into a lot of Black women, again, like say some of the ones that were the main ones that say they want to stay at home. These were the main ones that were reading all of these books about empowerment, as far as female empowerment, Black woman empowerment, finding yourself, not settling, all these types of things. And you wouldn't think that a woman who says, okay, I want to be a stay-at-home mom is reading that. You would think that, this woman would say, okay, no, I want to be out here, conquering the world. And so I think a lot of women, one of the issues is, like I say, either they don't feel comfortable with really, saying what they want, or they just don't know how to get to a place of achieving it. And then they don't really know, again, where to find the men that line up with it. Because again, that's another huge factor. When we start to talk about, like I say, women staying at home and different things like that, those women really do need to target the men that make over 6 figures. Because it's very difficult, especially here in Atlanta. I can't say all over the world, but I can say here in Atlanta, for 2 people and 2 children to have a pretty good life unless you have at least 6 figures coming in. I mean, honestly, even right now, the average house in Atlanta is around $300,000. So you have to be able to pay that mortgage. All right. So this is not me trying to act like people have to make a lot of money. I'm just trying to be realistic. That being said, I think that's one of the first things. The next major thing is that other cultures work in a different manner. Just like, Jamal in this particular video, I have dated women outside of the American culture. I've told people this, multiple times before. When I first started to date them, I wasn't necessarily trying to date women outside of my culture. I was just, she looked like a Black woman, so I talked to her. And then I would find out that she's Nigerian or, she's Ethiopian, or she's from South Africa, or, from Ghana, or, the Caribbean, or wherever it is. So I'm not going to stop dating her, just because, she's from another country. And what I found was that, just like what he talked about, those women do cater to their men. But they also come from environments where men rule. Black women do have to understand, and they have to take this into consideration, that the black culture, like I say, generational black culture in America is a matriarchy. It's not a patriarchy. And therefore, whoever is quote unquote at the top is the one that everybody gives accolades to. And even in our current environment, we still have all of these books, all of these television shows, all of these documentaries that are all about lifting up the black woman. Okay? They're all around us. If you as a woman have not seen them, you're really just not paying attention. Okay? But they are all around us. So from that perspective, there's more of a leaning in the black culture to take care of the black queen. So that is more how the black culture leans. But in other cultures, even of African descent, so we're talking about South America, Africa, the Caribbean, and even black people, like I said, that have left those areas and they've settled all around the world, those women are under a patriarchy. So those women see it great if they have found a really good man that is taking care of them, that is, trying to do right by them. They see that as, oh my gosh, wow, I found me one, girl, I found one. They get excited about that. And then their culture is very much old school. So, this is this culture where if a little boy wants to learn how to cook and clean up the house, you basically are dealing with a lot of those cultures that will punish the little boy for wanting to do those things. And will punish a little girl who basically wants to be a lot more entrepreneurial and do business and stuff like that. You literally have cultures still today that work that way. I'll be honest, I had a friend that was telling me about Utah, and out there you have a lot of Mormons. And if y'all, again, watch a lot of TV, y'all know a little bit about, that culture. And I had one of my boys that went out there and he was like, man, the women out here, they treat you like a king. Why? Because that is what they've been taught to do. Okay, they've been taught that way since a young age. And therefore, when they find a man that doesn't cheat on them, doesn't abuse them, because a lot of men in those cultures, not every man, probably less than 1 out of 100, but it's just the fact that they might still hear rumors of that. So they found a man that will take care of them, that will be nice to them, that will bend over backwards for them, that will give them gifts. They're like, I'll do anything for you. Because they've already been trained that way, and now they feel like they found a gem. And see, I think that these two things are things that a lot of black women do have to understand when it comes to this whole dating outside of your race thing. Now, again, I do believe that a lot of black women can find the same thing. There are a lot of cultures that, like I said, that, these men in some of these other cultures, they just want to be nice to women. They want to lift up their women. They want to be good to their women. And I think that, again, a lot of black women are able to find those men. When you find a black woman saying, I found a really great white man, or I found a really good Asian man. But I think one of the problems, again, that we have in the black community is that, unfortunately, more of us, both male and female, tend not to do the right thing. I'm just going to say it like that. And, I've done a lot of different videos talking about the culture and what some black people do and the fact that some of us are ratchet or hood or whatever other word you want to use. But unfortunately, a lot of generational black people, they believe that's how you're supposed to live life. They believe that having a baby out of wedlock is a good thing. They don't even see it as a bad thing. They believe that if I never get married, it's not a big deal. They believe that, if I'm out here hustling, or if I'm stealing cable from somebody or stealing Hulu, I got one friend that's got Hulu, we all give that person like $5 and then they give us the different logins, so that we can all get Hulu together. They think that that hustle is a good thing, but it's not. It's a mindset. And if you will cheat a company out of making their profit, you will cheat somebody else, even cheat in your relationship. And when I'm saying cheat here, I'm not necessarily talking about with another person. It is basically just you're not doing what you need to do in order to make that relationship successful. See, everything in life is just about a mindset. And that's why the Bible is trying to give you the right mindset. As a person, whether you're male or female, you're supposed to do more for your person. Your goal is to basically give and give and give and give away. Your goal is not to take and take and take and take. Now, as I say this, I have to warn everyone because you do have a toxicity in giving. If you're a person that always gives, but you never want to receive, you can be toxic. It is the equivalent of taking this information and then you empower it so much in your mind that you see yourself as nothing and you see everybody else as something, and so it becomes toxic. And it's really important, for you to understand that. Like even with Jesus gave and gave and gave and gave and gave. And we know this. Okay, he was feeding the masses. He was doing this, he was doing that. But when somebody said, "Hey, I want to have dinner for you, Jesus. Come on over to my house." Jesus was like, "Yeah, let's go." He had no problem eating their food, drinking their wine, sitting back on their couch, relaxing, chilling. He had no problem with that. Because when they were offering him a blessing, he was going to take it. He had no problem with that. Okay, people even talk about the gifts that were brought by the wise men, the frankincense, gold and myrrh. And at that particular time, about how much that was worth. I've had a lot of pastors talk about that. And some pastors talk about in our equivalent today's society, that could have been worth anywhere from $250 all the way to up to $1 million. 250,000 all the way up to about $1 million. Can you imagine that? As a baby, Jesus is receiving that. And again, his parents had no problem saying, "Okay, thank you. We appreciate this. We'll sell it. We'll make some money. We'll buy some milk." So the whole point here is we have to understand that our goal is to give away. And when a black woman or a black man, like I said, this can go either way, but since we're talking about black women here, a lot of black women, I believe, they don't understand what they're supposed to be doing. You as a black woman should be thinking, if you have a good man in front of you, and I'll say it one more time, if you have a good man in front of you, you should be doing everything to give to him forever. And you should recognize whether or not your man is a good man or a bad man. Okay, and again, that's one of the tenets of getting married. You're not going to get married if you don't know the difference. All right? So, if you're wasting your energy on bad guys, that's on you. I'm constantly telling you how to find good guys versus bad guys. Okay? But what you have to do is once you do that, you give everything away. You cook for this man. You clean for this man. You help him with his clothes. You rub his back. You rub his feet. You talk to him about his day. You support him in his dreams. You're always being kind. You overlook wrongs. If he makes one or two small mistakes, you overlook those things. You should be doing everything you can to make that relationship work, okay, if you have found a good man. And it's the same thing for men. You find a good woman. Oh, you give her money. You buy her gifts. You take her on trips. You buy her clothes. You rub her back. You listen to her dreams. Okay, it's the same thing. But see, that's one of the problems. A lot of black people have been so hurt, or they've gotten such bad information that they're withdrawing themselves. And they're like, "Okay, I'm going to see what you're going to do. Are you going to do good for me? Are you going to treat me right? And then maybe I might do something for you. Maybe, just maybe." And see, that's really where the problem is. Because see, what happens is you might not think that pulling yourself back is a big issue, but the problem is if you do it continuously, you create a habit of it. And now you become afraid to do. And you don't have the desire to do anything anymore. And so now you're basically pulling yourself back And that person could be doing all these things for you. Okay. And then sooner or later, especially if y'all are not married yet, that person's going to leave you. And then you're going to be wondering, like, why did they leave me? Why did they leave me? I'm a good person. No, you're not, because you never showed you were a good person. You only believed it up here, but they never saw it. And this is one of the main reasons why walls and pain hurt a lot of women, especially a lot of women as they get older. And I'm just going to give you ladies one quick tip. And this is one of the things that I've seen, and I know some women might take a little bit of offense to it, but I'm hoping you understand this with the heart that I am trying to give it. Okay, both men and women put up walls and they deal with pain. And there's this big new movement for a lot of women to go to therapy and to try to use therapy to get past the walls of pain. Now, the first thing I've always told women is if you pick well, you'll never experience the pain. Okay? If you pick well, you'll never experience the pain. And the best time for you to pick well is in your 20s, early 30s. Now, that being said, if you have experienced pain, you have to find a way to dissolve it and to be able to walk in freedom again. And like I say, a lot of women think therapy can do it, but I've run into a lot of women that have gone to therapy and then they still are doing the same things they were doing before. Because there is this desire for women to have, and even men sometimes, to have a certain type of person, to have a certain look, a certain feel. The lady in the particular video talked about it. She talked about the Instagram model type of situation. But even when you deal with that, and like I say, I'll say my own experience in that. When I found a woman, like I said, that has gone through hardship, it doesn't matter how beautiful she is. She tends to be a lot more humble and she tends to do more. When I run into a woman who has been in a specific place where she's always thought she was cute or she's always had it good, I find that those women generally, not always, but I find that those women, like I said, can be a little bit more problematic. And I truly have seen the same thing in men. But what I've noticed is that there's a romantic notion to a lot of people, both male and female. And so they're constantly trying to, chase these beautiful people that are beautiful on the outside instead of beautiful on the inside. And what I'm always saying is try to find the hybrid. Try to find the person that is beautiful on the inside, but they're cute enough on the outside. And I've even warned women, especially, to stop chasing beautiful men. Okay? Because a lot of times that's where a lot of women hurt themselves. But the point to these walls is what I've noticed is that a lot of women say that they've gotten their walls down, but they truly haven't. And I've seen that over and over again with women that I've dated, with women that have come out to, Christian Singles Connect, with women that have gone through every pattern that a lot of women, like to go through, which is, okay, I was in a relationship, it didn't work out, I got hurt, I took 6 months off, I went to therapy, I took another 3 months off, now I'm going back into dating again. But then when they go back to dating, they still go for the same guy that they was going with before. It's just, like I say, same energy in a different body. And then they get hurt again and they do it over and over again. And then by the time they're 35, they're mad, they're angry at the world. And then they have a million walls up. And then they might finally find a good guy because they're like, well, I've tried everything else. I'll finally try this boring guy over here. And then they think the boring guy is going to fight through all these walls. But he's not. And when I say boring here, I'm using that more from a perspective, where I'm saying he was actually the good guy. And I've told you all before that I've had at least 40% of the women that I've dated, they've called me boring. Or they thought that when they first met me, but based off my pictures and how I dress and stuff like that. And even the fact that even right now, I can wax 20 minutes and speak intellectually and don't have to curse. Okay, so they think, oh, okay, well, this guy is boring. And then they get around me and they're like, wow, this guy is fun. And he does this and he does that and he does this and he does that. And again, that is a problem that a lot of black women face, especially because generational black women are not used to that type of man. But when I've dated the foreign women, they're used to that type of man. The men in their countries are a lot more logical. Okay, because they were raised to be that way. So they're more ambitious. They're going out for more things. But see, all of that energy lines up with more what I would consider a hardcore masculinity. And so when I'm around those women, and I've said it before, they're very used to me. They see me and they're like, you're like an Americanized version of a Nigerian. You're like an Americanized version, of somebody from South Africa. You're like an Americanized version of an Ethiopian. And so for them, they don't have a problem with with hanging out with me, because now they already are just compelled to be there, and they're very used to it, and they don't have a problem with it. And that's always why I'm always trying to talk to the men, and I'm always trying to get the men to level up a little bit, to understand that, okay, you have to get out as a man, you got to get out of your emotions a little bit, and you have to lean into making life happen for you, right? And then even if you are one of those guys and you made life happen for you, you still have to get you a couple of women that maybe put you in the friend zone, but you have to use those women and their energy to help you get to where you need to be so you'll look better. All right. And it's just like I said, like right now with the chain and the shirt on, I'm just being real. I had one lady, I hung out with her. She liked me literally in a jeans, t-shirt, J's, a chain. That was it. When I put that on, she thought I was just super fine, handsome, whatever. It was like she was going crazy. Then for another woman, I had to put a blazer on, or sport jacket, however you want to say, put up basically on a suit. And when I walked with her, that's what she liked. But both women thought I was handsome. But the issue was they liked me in a different style. And that's why I'm always telling women, do not get caught up on the man's style. Eventually, he will look like the man you want him to look. He's going to do it eventually. Because when you hang out with people, a little bit of you rubs off on him and a little bit of him rubs off on you. That's why married people and people in relationships always look the best. Because they literally have somebody in their life that is always working toward helping them be more attractive. So that's just how it works. But ladies, don't get so confused by if you're dealing with a man that doesn't look like what you want him to, because his style is easy to change. That's really, really easy to change. And I'm constantly saying that because I don't think a lot of women really get that. Because a lot of women will say, oh, I love a man in a suit, or I love a man in this, and I love a man in that. That's fine and that's cool, and I have no problem with that. But the bottom line is you can get your man to do that. But you need to make sure that, he's somewhat handsome to you. Okay, good looking to you. But once you've done that, you done, boo. You done found your man. Okay, the main thing is, I've always told you all, what's up here and what's in here. And then as women, I'm just telling you, especially for the generational black women, when you find these men, treat him like a king. Okay, you need to understand that you're lucky in all of this dating environment to find a man that's good to you. The same thing for men. If you find a woman that's good, that's awesome, treat her as such. It's like I've tried to tell you, one of the prayers that you should be praying, if you really want God to answer, your prayer of finding someone, simply, get your mindset around this. God, you have given me so much. You have put so much love in my heart. You have given me an understanding of resources or whatever it is. God, please send me someone that I can give this away to. Give me one of your people that is crying out and that is in need, that is a good person, that I can give all of this to. And that's one of the main problems that we have, in, this dating sphere, is that we're greedy. We want stuff for ourselves. And then we think, okay, God, send me, this man. He got to be 6'2", God. He got to be chocolate, God. He needs to be good in bed. He need to have money. And see, you think God is listening to that, especially because then it's like the next day you meet that guy, right? But see, God didn't send him. The other person sent him. And then 3 years later, you hurt, and you're in therapy and you don't know how you got there. Because God is not going to listen to your prayer about, first of all, anything that's selfish. And then second of all, anything that doesn't line up with his word. I'm just being real. Okay, so that it doesn't work that way. David was a ruddy little, even his own family didn't think much about him. Now, once he became king, there were a lot of women that thought he was attractive. But when he was out there in the field, ain't no telling what was going on. His hair was probably a mess. His beard was crazy. You know, he was probably dressed like, you know, like garbage. But when he became king and he had people cleaning all of that up, now other women was like, oh, David kind of fine. I didn't know, you know, he was out there in them, you know, out there on that pasture, you know, I looked past him, but now 10 years later, you know, David kind of looking good. And I've always encouraged women, they really need to have the mindset of understanding how to find a diamond in the rough. And the diamond in the rough is based off their mind and their heart, not the outside. Okay? And that's both for men and for women. But I do agree that the person needs to be halfway decent. Again, I'm not telling you all to date just jacked up folk. Anyway, remember every other Thursday we do Thursday Talk, so please come out to that. That is your way to come out. Tell me you hated this video or you love this video or talk about any other of the other topics that we like to go over. Also, just want to do a quick shout out and let people know that I've changed the name of Christian Millennials Connect to Christian Young Adult Singles. So you're going to start to see that appear more and more because the old links don't work anymore. Just to let you know, because I found that a lot of younger people, they don't really understand what a millennial is. So I just went on, decided to change it to young adult. And now that really encompasses the group that I wanted, which is between 24 all the way up until about 39, 40. And really, this group is really just more about if you want marriage and children. All right. So if you want marriage and children, you can, especially if you live in the Atlanta area, but you don't have to be in the Atlanta area to do it. You can go out to Christian-Young-Adult Singles, all on the meetup right now. And like I said, you'll see the information on the screen. So you can go out there, you can join. It'll help you to always know what's going on, not only here in Atlanta, but anytime I am doing anything on, you know, the YouTube channel as far as Thursday Talks. But anyway, please like, please subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.